Morning, we are live. I'm just trying to find the best light here. Good morning. Whoop, way too bright. Back over here. Let's try this. Sorry if that made you dizzy at all. Hey, good morning, Andrea. Trying to find good light here. Morning, Sherry. All the way from Arizona. Claudia, Mom, welcome everybody. May 6th today. Morning, Debbie. Steve Hauser, good morning. Hope you all enjoyed your Cinco de Mayo yesterday. Karen, welcome. The lighting today, I can't get it right for this. It'll be what it is. I just have this, at least on my end, I just have this pasty glow this morning. So, Sally, good morning. Caleb, looks good. All right, I'll take it. Lisa, hey, good morning. Alyssa Tucker, good morning to you. Yes, happy Wednesday, everybody. Janisa, welcome. Mike and Joe, Matthew. Actually, Matthew's name popped up. He's in the building with me. He keeps threatening he's going to make a cameo appearance somewhere in the background. So it's kind of a serious subject I want to touch on today, so if that happens, we'll just go with it. Brittany, welcome. Suzanne, Daryl and Suzanne. Hey, brother, Michael. Welcome, everybody. Today is May 6th. I don't know if you have already studied the series of Psalms today, and I think I'm going to land on Psalm 36 today. I think that's where I put my bookmark. And we'll get to that in just a moment. Just want to keep acknowledging people who are here. We have 22 people in the live stream so far. Welcome, everybody. Glad you found us here. And it's hard. Today is kind of one of those days where you wake up and you feel your heart feels burdened, and it's not like a new thought. It's a thought that's been a part of my thinking these days with regard to what's going on in the world, and particularly with the suffering, the reactions of people all around the world to COVID-19, and in particular, how angry people are. And I want to address that a little bit today. Because I think it is the role of God's people to help the world to see, first of all, who God is. We're going to touch on that in, I think, Psalm 36. And then the light that God gives us to navigate life, and to make sure that we keep drawing attention to those things and examine our own hearts, to align our hearts, align our thinking with the reality of God, who He is, and what He's doing in the world. So turn to Psalm 36 if you're not already there. I'm going to keep acknowledging people. Keith, Ankar, Jen Burkinsky, Sierra, Lori, Jen. You guys all welcome. Keith, I wanted to just say how much I've just been praying for you guys, and particularly I think about the Navajo Nation and the news I saw recently that Gallup, New Mexico is really being hit hard by COVID. So, they're shutting things down. You can't even get into that city without proof of residency. And I didn't know how close Gallup was to the reservation there, or to the Navajo Nation. And is the Navajo Nation also getting that kind of numbers and being affected in that way with COVID. So I've just been thinking about you, thinking about the Navajo Nation and praying for them. So just letting you know that. And so Psalm 36. As with many Psalms, it begins with some sort of enemy that has surrounded the psalmist. And I'm hearing, see, I told you it would happen. There's an enemy at the gate, the psalmist says, and it's being personified by people that we, you guys could say good morning to Pastor Matthew. So wait, what? I didn't even remember what I was saying. This is supposed to be a serious one, dang it.
Enemy at the gate.
So the psalm begins with transgressors, with those who are enemies of the psalmist, enemies of God in this sense. They're flattering themselves. There is no fear of God in their eyes, and so on. So you have people that are out there living in the world that clueless about God, doing their own thing, and in this case characterized as kind of the dark underbelly of society, that they're laying in bed plotting evil and all of these things. By contrast is the nature of God. I think this is the point of the psalmist. Verse 5, your steadfast love, O Lord, extends to the heavens, your faithfulness to the clouds. Your righteousness is like the mountains of God. Your judgments are like the great deep. Man and beast you save, O Lord. I just want to keep calling attention to the character of God, which does not vary. His steadfast love is that covenant-keeping love, but it's extended to his creation, to all mankind, but particularly his people. That it just does not vary. And though we have trouble sometimes interpreting our times, because what's happening? Where is God right now, especially when things are going poorly? We just have to keep coming back to the reality that God is outside of his creation, that his love, his character does not alter. He is good. And but yet he is intimately involved with every thought, every word we speak, everything we do. When we stand up, lie down, this is how the Bible describes his relationship with people. He's even man and beast in verse 6. God saves, so he's not just only concerned with humanity, which is the crown of his creation, which is, we are made in the image of God, but he is even concerned about animals, and he makes sure that they get fed, and he knows when a sparrow hits the ground. So God he does not change. He's outside of his creation, yet he's intimately involved with our everyday lives. So that's where the psalmist begins. He talks about those who oppose God, they don't fear God, but God is unmoved by this. His righteousness and justice prevail. He is an unmoving God. His steadfast love, his loving kindness is consistent toward us. How precious is your steadfast love, O God. This is verse 7. The children of mankind take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast on the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from the river of your delights. I love that picture because in the middle of, especially the psalmist so many times is expressing grief and expressing tears and struggle and difficulty. And so I think it's the psalmist's purpose here to not only just to cry out to God, but the reality that God, we can take refuge in him, and that we can feast in his house. We can drink from his delights. That is the goodness of God. Continue to come back to the good nature of God. We have to remind ourselves of this. We get so distracted with the things that irritate us, that the problems that we can't solve, we have to, and the uncertainty of life. It's so good to meditate on the unchanging character of God, in whom we can take delight. We can drink from the river of his delights. And here's the verse I just want to end on today. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light do we see light. In your light do we see light. And I haven't done a study of the original language on that phrase. This is a kind of a devotional thought, so I'm just going to comment on what came to mind for me when I read that phrase, in that God is the one who is light, and light is often associated with truth, darkness with evil, falsehood, and so on. And in your light, so God's light, not just physical light like light of day, but kind of a metaphor for truth and all that is good, all that is right. In God's light do we see light. And the idea that came to mind for me is we can only see what is the reality of the world when we know who God is, we understand his plan as he is from the beginning of creation to the end, is working all things out according to his will. And the more we know God's will, the more we can interpret the events that happen in our life, our own individual lives, and so on. It's only in God's light do we actually see what's happening. Do we actually see light? Do we see the actual truth? Unlike the evildoers at the beginning, that they don't fear God, they don't think about God, so they think they can do whatever they want and plot whatever they want, and so on. Here's another verse that came to mind this morning as I was reading this psalm, and it was in James. Let me get there. He says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow, we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit. Yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live or do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil." So we know the light of truth, right? So God exists outside of his creation. He has a plan that is being carried out, and once we understand that plan, we can align our lives to that plan. And in your light, do we see light? If it's according to your will, God, I have all these hopes and dreams and plans, but they're all subject to God, your ongoing will that you are working out in the world. We have a proverb that's printed on our wall in this room. A man makes his plans, right? But it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. God guides the hearts of kings. God is working out a plan. And he says that when we don't acknowledge that, we don't live in the light of his light, we are arrogant and we boast. And all such boasting, James says, is evil. So we get thrown back into the category of the people that Psalm 36 opens with. You evildoers who do not fear God. We are redeemed people, right? So he's saying, don't think that way, because that aligns with those who are arrogant who don't fear God. Think along the lines, God, is it your will? So I'm a little bit scattered this morning in all this, so these are just my thoughts. So what I feel so called to as a pastor is to call out our hearts in times like this. God is working out a plan, and we can have all our plans we want, but we see how fragile our control is over the world. When things like what's happening in our world today are going on, we just see how little of control we actually have. And it's time like this we have to lean back upon God and live in his light. It's like, okay, God, I have all these plans, but if it's your will, I'm going to do these things, this or that. I'm going to subordinate my priorities, what I want to do, to your will. And so let me think about, let me just respond to, I said in the beginning, I just see so much anger. It's hard for me to get on. I have turned down way how much I spend on social media, because it's so hard because of all the anger that's flying around and accusations and name calling, and everybody's so mad about our situation, and we'd like to say that all that anger is righteous anger, right? It's because of injustice and all that, but the reality is that anger, and this is where I feel compelled to always call us back to, is to examine our own hearts. Anger is not a primary emotion. It's always a secondary emotion. So anger is a response to something that's not right in our heart or our life and our world. Something has upset our world in some way. And anger is simply a response to that. So it's the wise person examines their own heart when we're angry. Why am I angry? Why does this make me so mad? Why is anger my response here? What is it triggering in my own soul? And I just want to encourage us today to do that self-examination. And we really can only do it with the light that God gives, because we are so prone to self-deception. What do I mean by that? When we get angry, rather than be honest with what makes us angry, we shift to more noble reasons of being angry. Well, I wouldn't be angry unless you didn't say blank. It's really not my fault that I'm angry. It's somebody else's fault. I'm angry because of our government leaders. I'm angry because of feeling that my good and right will is being thwarted by somebody else's will who is in authority, who is making decisions that affect my life. And so rather than examine, why does that make me so angry? What is it about? Do I fear something? Is there some deep fear? What is it in me? We shift our anger to those external things that we believe are actually the root of it, when in reality the root is in our own heart. The external things are just the triggers. And so as a people of God, what should our response be? I think first of all is to examine our hearts and ask the light of God. In your light do I see light. That's what the psalmist says. Ask God to really open up our hearts and our minds to understand what is the inner workings of our own soul. Let me go back to James. I should have put the bookmark there. I got to find it again. Because James comments on this as well. He says in chapter 4, what causes quarrels? What causes fights among you? Is it not this, that your passions are at war within you? So James is pointing out what we all know and observe who think about anger. What causes these fights and quarrels? It's something that's inside of us. And he says it's the passions that are at war within us. You desire, he's pointing out a particular reality is we desire something, but we can't obtain it. And so therefore we murder. We covet and cannot obtain. So you fight and quarrel. So James is helping us see that we're fighting with one another, but reality is there's an inward struggle in your own passions that you have. You covet something, but you can't have it. I want to do what I want to do. I talked about this on Sunday. I want life on my terms. I want to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want, and you can't tell me otherwise. When any circumstance or person limits life on my terms, I get mad. So how do I give up life on my terms? And I'm kind of applying it to COVID-19, but it's reality. It's so many circumstances of life, illness, an untimely death, a physical injury that sets you from your goals. All these things touch on a root part of our own heart that I want something, but I've just been prevented from having it. And as children, we throw tantrums when this happens. As adults, we are much more sophisticated in our response, but it still is an echo of that childish heart within us that we have a particular desire and we're not able to obtain it. God says that we should turn those desires over to him, that we should align our pleasures with his character, that we should drink from the pleasures of his river, from the bounty of his table, align our lives with his will. So he says, so this is why James says, don't say, oh, I'm going to do this tomorrow, that tomorrow, I'm going to go make money in that city. And he said, no, that's boastful, that's arrogant. Instead say, if it's God's will, I'll do these things. Aligning our heart to God's will. And so then we can kind of release those things, those inner triggers that cause us so much anger when we don't get life on our terms. And so I want to just pray. The biggest way to do this is just ask God for help. And so I want you to know, I pray for you, but I don't know all the specific ways I can pray. And so I just want to encourage you. I know if you're on Facebook and you're friends with Grace Fellowship, that's how you're watching this live stream. Or if you're friends with me personally on Facebook, I want to know how I can pray for you. I just want to pray for one another. Prayer is such a powerful thing. If you could give me a personal message, go onto the personal message part of Facebook, either on the Grace Facebook page or my page. Tell me how I can pray for you. Tell me something specific about how you're trying to work out in your own heart, your own responses to submit your will to God's will. God is good. His steadfast love endures. We come back to this character, but somehow, because I'm not getting what I want, what I desire, there's a conflict there, and I'm trying to work that conflict out. How can I pray for you today? And secondly, I want to tell you that our church has a really powerful prayer ministry, and that I want to make available. If you have a prayer request, all you have to do is type prayer at gracefellowshipamador.org, and you can make that request known. And we have a whole group of people that are part of that ministry that are praying and lifting up these requests all the time. I think a really great response is to continually pray for one another. How can I pray for you? How can we as a church pray for one another? And if you aren't a part of our church, don't hesitate. Continue, let me know how I can be praying for you today. And I assure you, I will be doing that. The Bible also tells us that we should be praying for our leaders. They are people, and many of them are believers, trying to do what is right for the people of our country, the people of our local community. And the trouble is that that's not an objective thing, it's a subjective thing. And so there's various opinions as a result. So let's continue to pray for our leaders who are doing their level best to represent the people who put them in those positions to do what is right according to their own conscience and so on, whether we agree or not. Let's pray for our leaders. Prayer, examining our own hearts and praying that God's will be done in our world. And how are we doing that today? How are we exposing the world to the steadfast love of God through our own actions, our own words, our prayers? So that's my thought today, and I hope you are encouraged today to live out God's will in your life. You have an opportunity. God has a plan for you today. What is your voice? How will you use your voice today to draw people to hope, draw people through this journey that's so difficult at so many levels, to align with the will of God as you understand it? So we all have a role to play. Let's keep moving forward and trusting God through this. All right? God bless you today.